Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Today I wanted to share some older makeup products that still wow me to this day. So this is a video idea that I got from Babs Beauty. She does these a lot on her channel and I enjoy watching them so much. And I hope you guys enjoy it too. I'm gonna be doing a full face of all of these products, some of them dating back to the 1990s. So it's gonna be a super fun and nostalgic video. So let's go ahead and jump straight into it and get started. All right guys, let's go ahead and start out with brows. So for my brows today, you guys know I've been using the Too Faced Fluff and Hold Brow Gel for a while, but there is another brow product that I think is so phenomenal, and I talked about it many times on my channel, just not recently, and it's the Got To Be Glued Styling Spiking Glue. So this is technically for the hair on your head, but I found years ago that this works so well for hair. Why not use it for your brows? Your brows are hair too, right? So this literally holds your brows in place all day. They're not going to budge when you use this. And this little tube, this is a mini that I got on Amazon. I want to say it was $2, but the bigger one that you can get at the drugstore is like $6. So it's gonna last you pretty much forever. You only need the tiniest little drop of this on the back of your hand. Then you just grab a spoolie and apply it to your brows that way. So I'm just gonna put the tiniest little dot. And by the way, this stuff's been around since the early 2000s. It's probably at least 20 years old, if not more. So I'm just gonna take a little spoolie. This is from ColourPop, I think. This one I got with their brow glue that they have like in the little pot. So I'm just gonna start brushing my brows upward, and this is great for like if you like the laminated brow look. Once your brows set down, they will not go anywhere. They'll just be in place all day. I can't remember who I actually learned this tip from, but whoever they were a genius, because using a hair gel for brows just makes so much sense, and it's so much less expensive than buying a brow gel. Yes, you do have to have like an extra spoolie. It doesn't come like all in one tube with the brush and everything, but if you're looking to save money, like I said, this little $2 tube will probably last me for years, like not even kidding. Next up, let's talk about a primer that I haven't tried in many years. This came out back in 2014, and it's the Tarte Timeless Smoothing Primer. This is something that I've used on and off over the years, and I really do like it. I just got this mini size recently at Sephora, and I was surprised that it doesn't have a smell anymore. It used to smell like baby powder. It was this really strong scent, so I'm glad that they did that. And I'll just show you quickly. This has a really kind of fluffy, whipped texture. It's a little bit thicker, almost like a paste, and it reminds me very much of the L'Oreal Studio Secrets primer that I really used to love that's now been discontinued. And this is amazing for just mattifying your skin, and it really does smooth out your pores and make your skin look airbrushed. It's really fantastic, and it's not like sticky or goopy. I feel like foundation applies really nicely on top of it. So let me just zoom you guys in a little bit closer. I really want to show you the difference this makes. And do you all remember the whole controversy with Tarte and this product years ago when I think it was on Instagram, they had somebody who works for them putting this on camera, and then all of a sudden it kind of switched to a filter and you could see the glitch where the filter kicked in. So they were trying to show how it smoothed your pores. And honestly, I don't think they needed to really resort to trickery, because it actually does make a huge visible difference. I think if they had just played it straight, people would see that this is a really good primer. So I'm showing you the unfiltered version so that you can really see how this not only mattifies your skin, but just makes it look so smooth. Look at the texture right here on my forehead. Watch this disappear. It just smooths everything out. It takes down shine. I didn't have a lot on my finger there. Hold on one second. All right, so yeah, I mean, you can see just from one side of my forehead to the other, it's like you have texture over here, and then it's so much smoother on this side. Same thing with this side of my face. Over here, you can definitely see a little more texture, and this just looks so smooth, and it almost evens out your skin tone as well, which is really weird because I didn't apply any foundation on this side, but like I said, it's just kind of an instant filter, and people do not talk about this product anymore, but it's so good. So if I had to compare this one to the L'Oreal Studio Secrets, it's close. I would say this is probably the closest thing that exists on the market today. Yes, you can still get the L'Oreal one on Amazon, but it's all from third-party sellers at this point, and I think Walmart has it too. But again, you have to be careful and check to see who you're buying it from, because some of these companies may not be legit. Some of them price gouge and just charge a crazy amount because they know it's discontinued. So at this point, I think I'm just gonna maybe start buying this one. But anyway, it's really close. I would say almost identical. So I'm happy with this. I just hate that I have to pay a lot more money. So let me just check on my brows really quick. They're almost dry. So let's just do one more complexion product. So this is from Pixi Beauty, and it's their Correction Concentrate in Brightening Peach. This is one of my favorite color correctors of all time. And this also came out in 2014, so it's 10 years old, just like the Tarte primer. Let me just show you what this looks like. It does come in a really tiny jar, but you only need the tiniest little amount of product. And it's a perfect peach tone to cancel out any darkness around your eyes. So because it's a little thicker, I don't like to use it underneath my eyes right here, but I do like to use it on the outer corner and inner corner where I have darkness. On my outer corner here, I do have this little fold of skin that creates a shadow, and it makes my eye kind of look like it's going down. So I just like to dab this right in that area, and it covers that shadow so much better than concealer would. So once I just dab that on, it's gone. So I still have it over here, but over here my eye looks a little more lifted. And then I also just put a dab in my inner corner to get rid of that darkness. And just doing those two things, look at how much brighter my eyes are. I really don't normally need to use concealer after I use this because it's so great at hiding the darkness. So you can see just from one eye to the other, this one's got the dark on the inner and outer. Over here just looks so much brighter and more awake. All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do the other eye really quick. Again, I don't like putting this under the eyes just because it's a little bit thicker. So because I don't have a lot of darkness down here, usually whatever foundation I'm wearing brightens that area enough that I don't have to use this. Sometimes I might take whatever little bit of residue is left on my finger and just bring it down a little bit, but I don't like to cake this on just because of the thickness of the product. But I think part of what makes it work so well is that it's so thick and it really just has great coverage. So next, I also want to just put on some eye primer so that it has some time to dry down before I apply eyeshadow. So I'm going to be using the MAC Paint Pot in Painterly. Talk about an iconic product right here. This launched in 2006, so we're coming up on the 20-year anniversary, which is insane. But I remember just everybody using this back in 2010's YouTube when I used to watch makeup artists use this as an eyeshadow primer, and it truly works amazing for that. I'm pretty sure this is just supposed to be a cream eyeshadow, and it comes in so many different colors. But the reason that I love Painterly is because it is the perfect shade for my complexion. It has a little bit of a pinky undertone. It's just a beautiful pale nude color, and it evens everything out. So not only does this give a little bit of grip for my eyeshadow to stick to, but it also covers any discoloration that's on my lids and just makes a really smooth, even canvas to apply eyeshadow. So hopefully you guys can see the difference. I put it over here and it just looks so much more smooth and even. And then over here, you can see some of the discoloration on my eyelids. This has been a go-to eye primer for me since the 2010 days when I first started watching YouTube. So while we're zoomed in, let's just go ahead and fill in my brows. I'm gonna be using the NYX Lift and Snatch Brow Pen. This is my favorite brow pen. I've tried others. I keep going back to this one. The shade Ash Brown is also a perfect color for me. It matches my brows exactly. And I would say out of all the products we're going to talk about today, this is probably the newest one. It was released in 2021, so it's 3 years old, but I've been using it since the beginning. And I want to show you guys quickly just how I do my brows because I always get questions about that. So once the gel is set in place, I would do that and then wait a little while before you apply this. That's why I went ahead and did primer and some other things first. What I like to do with this is kind of start along the bottom and create the shape that I want first. So my brows have this arch to them. Sometimes I like to make them look a little bit straighter. So what I'll start doing is just drawing a line right underneath my brows like this and just sort of sketch out where I want the brow to go. And again, I think this color is the perfect ash brown. So once I do that, hopefully you guys can see it. It's a little bit light. I think my brow pen might be running out of ink. And then I just start filling in the hairs, and this just makes the most natural looking hair-like strokes. I need to get a new one, but hopefully you can kind of see what this looks like. And I think just drawing that line on the bottom of where I want the brow to go is so helpful. It just kind of acts as a guide. And I don't like to draw a line along the top. I like to keep that kind of fluffy so it's a little bit more natural looking. But if you look at the difference between the two, I just filled in a little bit more, made it slightly thicker, but it still looks very natural overall. So let me just quickly do the same thing to this one. Again, I'm gonna try to like flatten that arch just a little bit and just draw the line underneath my brow. And then I just start flicking the brow pen up, creating those hair-like strokes. And like I said, it doesn't matter if the ones on the top aren't like a perfect even line, because I do like to keep it just a little bit fluffier. And then every so often, I just kind of take a step back and look and see if it matches the other one. If it doesn't, then I just go back in and fill in the areas that I think still need a little bit of help. Of course, I never get them exactly the same on both sides. It's almost impossible to do that, but I try to come as close as I can. So anyway, I think we're good. They're not going to be perfect. They're not going to be exactly the same, but I try to just get as close as I can. Next up, I want to use a palette that I've been thinking about lately. I've been really wanting to use it again, and it's definitely a summertime palette for me. Maybe it's just because of the name, but it's the Going Coconuts palette from ColourPop. This has been, over the years, a staple favorite palette because it has those neutrals. It's just such an easy palette to grab when you're in a hurry and you just really want to do a quick neutral eye, and the formula is fantastic. It is so good. I love how smooth and velvety the mattes are, and the shimmers. There are only a couple in this palette, but they're so reflective and metallic. And it's a beautiful neutral palette that doesn't lean too cool or too warm. I think it is very neutral overall. So here's just a close-up look at the palette itself. You have the shimmer shades running right down the center row. I think it's so beautiful. And then here's everything swatched out. So you can see those really super reflective shimmer shades that it has. And then the mattes as well. They're just so pigmented and smooth. It's a great formula. So I'm going to start with the shade Lovely Bunch, which is this one right here. I'm totally going to have the Lovely Bunch of Coconuts song stuck in my head now. Are any of you guys like that when you read something that's a song lyric? Does the song instantly pop into your head and then stay with you all day? Because I have such an issue with that. My husband actually makes fun of me because I'm constantly singing commercials too. Like I'll hear a commercial come on TV and then I'll be singing it for the rest of the day. And my son does it too. So I guess he got it from me. But yeah, I've really been enjoying this No Buy July. I mean, there are things that have been launching that I really want to try, but I'm also just enjoying using things in my collection that I normally wouldn't use. So I think every once in a while you have to just take a step back, take a breath, and use what you have. Next, I'm gonna pick up this shade down here called Get Crackin', and I'm just gonna place this right on the outer corner of my eye and just pat that on with a flat brush. This is the Rephr number 1 mini, and I'm just gonna create some lift at the outer corner with this one. All right, next, before I apply my shimmer shade, I want to use a product from 2016. This is the NYX Glitter Primer, and this is a staple for me, and it has been for a couple years now, ever since I discovered it, because it not only makes your eyeshadows pop a little bit more on your eyes, but also it just holds them in place and prevents glitter and shimmer particles from falling all over your face. So I put this just on the eyelid or wherever I'm gonna put the shimmer shade, but I don't put it up over the shadows that I've already applied. So I'm just gonna kind of start in the inner corner and just work this, I would say about halfway across my lid. It's okay if it overlaps the shadow that you put down a little, but I don't like to put it all over because it can lift up the color underneath. Basically just put it wherever you're gonna cover with the shimmer shade. And I'm gonna pick up this one right here in the middle called Cocoa Crush. This is my favorite shade from the palette. It's like a rosy taupe, and just look at how shiny and foiled this is. It is so beautiful, but it's not glittery. I feel like it's just a true metallic shade, like an old school metallic shimmer. It's one of the things I really love about this palette because I love these type of really intense shimmer shades. I know the toppers with the little micro glitter are so popular right now, but there's something to be said for these. I think they just make your eyes pop, you know what I mean? So I love this palette. I think it's phenomenal. I'm just gonna pick up the shade Palm Reader, which is the white shimmer, and I'm just gonna pop a tiny, tiny little bit on my inner corner. I'm not gonna go too crazy with it, but just for a little bit of brightness. Next up for eyeliner, I have one that's been around since 2011, so 13 years now, and it's the Stila Stay All Day liquid liner. Again, one of my favorite liquid liners. I've repurchased so many times over the years. This one's actually a double-ended one, so it has a tiny little brush on one side and then a larger brush on the other. So I usually like to use the little one because I have hooded eyes and I just find that it gives you a little bit more precision, but I also use the bigger one sometimes. So I'm just gonna do a little wing, nothing too dramatic. And this is in the brown shade. It's called Dark Brown. I usually prefer a brown liner to black just because I think it's a little softer against my skin tone, not quite as harsh. But I think with this eyeshadow palette, I would probably use a brown regardless, just because there are so many brown tones in the palette anyway. All right, so next, going back to 2004, so 20 years this mascara has been around. It's the original L'Oreal Telescopic. I bought this tube a couple of months ago, so it's kind of nearing the end of its life. I'll probably have to get a new one, but I love this. Let me just show you guys the brush really quick. I know you're probably tired of hearing me talk about this one, but it's got a really, really skinny brush, kind of similar to the Maybelline Sky High. And kind of similar to the Sky High, it's also one of the brushes that's kind of wobbly. I know some people hate those. I don't really mind them, but I love this formula for length. If you have kind of thicker lashes and you're not really looking to add too much volume, but you want that long, fluttery lash look, this is incredible. It's such an amazing lengthening formula. And I find that this isn't too dry of a mascara and it's not too wet. It's kind of somewhere in between, and the brush bristles are actually really close together, so it helps to prevent clumping as well. So I just want to quickly show you the difference between the two sides. So like, look at this side. My lashes are so long, they're curled up. This also doesn't smudge or flake either. So it's a really long lasting formula. And I think too, when you have hooded eyes, it's always helpful to have a thin brush like this because I find that I don't get mascara all over my lids like I can with thicker brushes. So yeah, I just love how this just really opens up my eyes and makes my lashes look so much longer. It's an amazing formula that I'm still using 20 years later, even though like 1,000 mascaras have come out between now and then. It really does stand the test of time. Next up for foundation, I wanted to pull out this one from Urban Decay. This is the Hydromaniac Tinted Glow Hydrator. This came out in early 2021, so it's like 3.5 years old now. And I personally love this formula, which is why I've held on to it. But for some reason, I don't know why, I never reach for it. It's kind of one of those things that's just been in the back of the drawer and it's like out of sight, out of mind. So I just want to show you really quick what the color looks like. This is the shade 30. And even though this is called Tinted Glow Hydrator, it's actually pretty full coverage. It's not like a skin tint where it's barely covering anything. It really does give you, I would say, solid medium coverage, maybe medium to full. But I personally love how it has that moisturizing feel of a skin tint, but it offers you more coverage if you need it or want it. If you have really dry skin, I think it's a great alternative to traditional foundation because often if you're using something that has a little bit more coverage, it can tend to look cakey or aging on dry skin. And I feel like this one is the best of both worlds. You get the coverage of a foundation, but that tinted moisturizer sort of feel. Now, I don't know how this is gonna fare on more oily skin types. If you do have oily skin, I'd love to hear from you in the comments if you've tried this, but I would say it's not an overly dewy or greasy type of formula. On me, it pretty much dries down right away. So it is possible that oily skin types might even be okay with this as well. So here's just a little close-up. Yes, I did apply it over the Tarte primer, but even if I didn't, I find that it still looks really, really smooth on your skin, very natural looking, very skin-like. It doesn't have really any glow or glitter particles, so it's not going to exaggerate your texture. It's just a beautiful, really natural looking finish. I love it. Next up for bronzer, I have an oldie but a goodie. This is the Laura Geller Baked Bronze and Brighten, and I have mine in the shade Fair. This product, I don't even know when it launched, but when I looked back at like Makeup Alley, I was trying to figure out how long this has been around, and there are reviews on it that say 21 years ago. So that would put us back at like 2003-ish. So it makes sense because Laura Geller launched her brand in the 90s. It probably has been around that long, but I just love it. I think it's one of the best bronzers if you have fair skin with a cooler undertone, because it has not only the bronze shade, but also it has some pink running through there. So it gives you that rosy tone, and that rosy color is very similar to the color that I would turn if I was gonna go out and actually get a real tan from the sun, because usually in addition to tanning, I would also burn a little bit. So I think it just adds that little bit of pinkness to my skin as well. So I'm gonna be applying this with the BK Beauty 104 brush. It's such a nice big fluffy bronzer brush. I love it. And I'm just gonna apply this right where the sun would naturally hit my face, horizontally along my cheeks and the bridge of my nose. I learned this technique recently from Rosemary Swift. She's the owner of RMS Beauty. She's a celebrity makeup artist, and it has made such a difference for me. I used to just apply bronzer like a contour, like everybody on YouTube does, and I find that just, especially because I have more of a longer face, that applying it this way kind of helps to balance that out a little. And it definitely just makes so much sense, because when I would go out and get a natural tan, which I don't recommend doing, but you know, when I was younger and I would come in, I would have like the sprinkling of freckles, you know, all across my face this way. And that's where all my color would be. It didn't go like this, you know? So I just put a little across my forehead because the sun always hits you there as well. And then I just put a little bit here on my chin, just whatever's left on the brush, to kind of tie it all together. And I also just blend a little bit down my neck, just so that doesn't look really white in comparison to my face. I just kind of blend a little bit. But yeah, I just love this bronzer. It's so natural looking. And because it's a baked product, it's not super powdery either. Next for blush, we are really going back in time. This product has been around since 1999. I was just out of high school for a couple years at this point. So this is the Stila convertible color, and I'm gonna be using the shade Peony. I feel like I use the Lilium shade all the time, which is one of my favorites, but for this look, I thought that Peony would work really well. So it's kind of like a dusty rose shade, but it's kind of a warmer pink. So I think it'll match really well with the browns that are in the palette. It's gorgeous. And this is a product that you can also use on your lips. And I remember it being so innovative at that time to have a cream blush, or rouge as people used to call it, you know, that you could also use on your lips. I remember my grandmother kind of doing something similar where she would actually use her lipstick as a blush. But this is just like a product that officially you could use for both if you wanted to. And back when this launched, there were no Sephoras anywhere near me. So I actually went to New York City so that I could see these in person, because they just had such a cult following and they were so hyped up. They were in all the beauty magazines. And I actually, like I said, I took a trip. I went there, I got this and one of their little lip glosses that used to come in the tin tubes, and I used the heck out of them back then. Stila is just another one of those brands that I think does not get enough love. So anyway, next for lips, I'm gonna go back even further in time. Let's go back to 1992, which was the year that MAC released their Spice lip liner. This is, talk about a classic, honestly. The fact that this is still around and has stood the test of time is just incredible. Let me just wipe off this blush swatch and I'll do a swatch of this really quick. So when this launched, I was 14 or 15. I was in like either 8th or 9th grade at the time, but it is such a perfect color. This is another one of those products that I would always read about in the beauty magazines, but I had no way to get MAC where I lived at the time. And even though the internet existed, people weren't really ordering products and things on there until probably like the late 90s. So it was something I just couldn't get my hands on back then, but there's a reason why it has such a cult following. It's just the perfect nude lip liner that goes with almost anything. And it's also so creamy that you really can just like fill in your lips and use it as a lipstick, which is what I'm gonna do today. Yeah, oh my gosh, such a beautiful color. It's a classic. I love this so much. Next, let's top it with a little layer of gloss. So this is a product from 2018. It's the Neutrogena Hydro Boost Hydrating Lip Shine. These are some of my favorite lip glosses of all time. You guys know I've talked about them super often on my channel. And this is the shade Berry Brown. So I'll just show you a quick swatch of it. It's a really beautiful peachy nude, and these are so smoothing. If you have lines in your lips, or if your lips look dry all the time like mine do, you have to try this. Like, they make your lips look so smooth. They make the lines just completely disappear. They're also unscented. They come in beautiful, like very natural looking colors. And they're a little bit of a thicker gloss, but they don't feel sticky. Like, they're not tacky every time you press your lips together. They have that more cushiony feel. So I just love them. They're one of my absolute favorite lip gloss formulas of all time. All right, guys, so here's a finished look with all of these back of the drawer favorites, with the exception of a couple that I do use all the time, like the Pixie Corrector and the MAC Paint Pot and the NYX Brow Pen. But a lot of these I haven't touched in quite a while, so it's time to move these back to the front of my drawer and make sure that I'm getting use out of them, because I forgot how much I love them until today. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments, what are some old makeup products that still wow you? I'd love to hear from you. And if you have some extra time and you'd like to watch another video, I'll just put something right over here so you can check those out next. Thank you guys so much. I hope you have a great rest of your day. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll consider subscribing, and I will see you all in my next one. Take care. Bye.